if you were wondering who those hooded characters were, those were angels. And if you wondered who the wolves were, that's Satan's army attacking him. Anyway, hope you found that interesting. But what he's telling you is he's telling you, all I need is Jesus. All I need is your love. I have problems. I have my darkest days. And Jesus, you are always there. I know I can always trust you that you'll be there for me and you will teach me the proper life. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the gospel. Mark 6. You might notice if you look up at the top that Mark, what we're quoting here in the lectionary is from verses 30 to 34, and then they jump all the way to 53 and 56. Now, what's sandwiched in between? What's sandwiched in between is a story of Jesus feeding the 5,000. And he's showing you how stepwise the apostles are learning what is compassion. And that's going to be my focus here. The first part is going to tell you about what Jesus is like and teaching you about compassion. The second part of that quote in the gospel is going to be how you act it out. So if we read through the first part, we say, the apostles gathered around Jesus and they told him all that they had done and taught. What that means is the part before, the apostles had been sent out. And they were sent out to teach, they were sent out to heal, they were sent out to bring the gospel to the other people. And then after that, after they come back, he says to them, come ye yourselves apart into a deserted place and rest for a while. So there were many coming and going, and they had no leisure so much as to eat. Well, you can see the apostles, they were busy. This was an 80-hour work week deal. You know, it was what was consuming them. And they were being led by God. Holy Spirit hadn't come yet. Led by God to carry out the Lord's mission. So next slide. This is what they were hoping to have. Jesus said, as we just said, come away to the deserted place and rest. So that was their plan. They were going to go disappear, get on the boat, disappear, and relax. You know, if you're doing God's work, you do have to take breaks, or else you get discouraged and then you quit. So Jesus knew, you got to take time off to pray, to recoup and rest. Unfortunately, when the word is out, you know, Facebook's already got it out that, you know, this Jesus dude, he's healing people right and left, and everybody knows some people that need to be healed, so they're boogieing to wherever he is. Technically, basically, they were ancient stalkers, is what they were. Wherever Jesus went, they were stalking him. So we said, many saw them going, and they ran on foot from all the towns. And as he went ashore, he saw a great throng. He had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. Now, the first reading that we had, we're hearing from Jeremiah. And Jeremiah is prophesying that the people really needed a shepherd. And they didn't have a shepherd. The leaders that were supposed to be the shepherd, they were not. They instead were misleading the people. Now, a shepherd's got a tough job. A shepherd needs to hang out, watch those sheep, and really watch. It's like me watching Athena. I cannot take my eyes off of her, or major trouble can happen. I already know. Not only for her, but me getting in trouble. So, you gotta watch the little sheep. Right, Athena? Gotta watch you. And keep our eye on you. And sometimes it's really dangerous. Sometimes there's a mountain lion or a bear or something else out there, and you've got to be able to stop that animal from attacking your sheep. Well, that's what Jesus is talking about. He came, and that's why I use the metaphor of a shepherd, because the people understood that. I mean, there were shepherds everywhere. That was a way of life for lots of people. So let's go on to the next part. I'm going to tell you two stories, okay? You might be able to guess a little bit what this one's about. These two stories are true. The first one is a story about New York City. And in New York City, it's really busy. Okay? And so this one pastor, he's standing out there in New York City in Times Square, and this traffic's going everywhere, and there's an accident, and cars are all jammed up, everybody's honking, yelling obscenities out the window, just having a fit. And all of a sudden, this mama cat comes out, and she's trying to walk across the busy street, and she's got little kittens following her. And this cop here jumps out in front of all the cars, basically almost risking his life to enable this mother cat to carry her kittens across the road. That's compassion. That's caring enough about doing something beyond just, oh, mama cat. Okay, well, I hope she makes it. Or I feel your possible death, cat, by doing this. No, instead, this officer acted and protected this cat and her kittens so they could cross the road. Didn't worry about the honking and the obscenities and everything else. He helped cross the road. This ended up being written up in the New York Times about this officer, that people can know there is compassion in New York City. You might not think so, but there actually is. The next story I want to talk to you about, these are all to illustrate Jesus' compassion. We're going to talk about the freezing old man in the bridge. This poor fellow, he had gone into town, pick up a few things, but on his way back, he got caught in a blizzard. And in this blizzard, he was getting so cold and frozen. And the reason is because with this bad weather, the bridge that he needed to go across, he couldn't do it. There was no way, walking-wise, that he could get across. So he had to just sit in the cold and wait for somebody to get him across. So he did. He saw a horseman coming up. The horseman came up, and strangely, the old man didn't make any effort for this man, this horseman, to help him. Seems odd. But anyway, next slide. There he is. That's the slide. He's busy. He's got places to go. He's got a lot to do. Basically, he's got apathy. He really doesn't care. You don't even know if he sees the old man, but if he did, it's not on his agenda to help him. That's apathy. Next slide. The other slide on the right, I've contraposed Jesus loving this person, even though like he's the dude, and there's thousands of people following him, he still takes time to help each individual, like this mourning mother. But you have in the other picture, the second rider. And the second rider, not only does that rider not help the old man, but she hits him with a stick to get him out of her way so she can cross the bridge. The next rider that comes along now kind of takes a look. And again, the old man, he got hit. He didn't even try to get his attention. He didn't want to, but he got hit anyway. But this time, he sees this fella come up, and this guy sees him, and he's looking at him, and the old man decides to shout out, "Please help me. Please help me." And that's the first rider that he does this to. It's because he looked into the man's eyes, and he saw that the man cared. He stopped, he was looking, he was trying to decide what to do, but he actually cared. So he reached out to this person. And what happened? The rider got off of his horse, and then, next slide, he put the old man on his horse. Not only did he put the man on his horse so he could get him across the bridge, he took the old man to his cottage, to his home, because he knew he was so weak and so cold that he better stay with him in order to help him get back to heat and to his family. Next slide. So this fella, as you might guess, this is probably around 1700s or so. This fella, after he dropped off his new friend, he headed home to the White House. His name was Thomas Jefferson. When the old man asked TJ about why in the world he took time to help him, he said, "Well, you needed my help and I was there for you." And he said, "You're the first rider who came by that I tried to get help from. And you know why I did that? It's because I could see in your eyes that you cared. I could see in my eyes that you were a man who could really help me and had compassion. So that's why I reached out to you for you to help. And TJ says, well, if I ever didn't show compassion and care about my fellow man and woman, then I don't deserve Jesus. I don't deserve to be blessed the way I've been blessed. I don't deserve that. And so, not only was TJ acting like Christ, but he also knew that that's the kind of person he should be. He should be Christ-like. My middle name is Christopher, and what that literally means is the carrier of Christ. And in that story, this big, strong guy is helping people get across the river. Kind of interesting, another river story. And he is carrying people across. And Jesus, as a young boy, meets him, asks for a ride, and he carries him. And then Jesus reveals that it's actually him that he's carrying across. So, what have we learned so far? As we've learned, Jesus is teaching. That's one of our requirements, or better than requirements, one of our callings. Jesus also heals. We heal. Don't think, well, I don't have that because I'm not a magician and I can't do it. If you care, you go to people, you will heal. Sometimes it will be I got cancer and now I don't. Other times it's going to give them the peace that they need to know that somebody actually cares. Many, many ways you can help. Sometimes it's just listening. But if we can be like Jesus, we're going to see people suffering and we're going to act. Now Jesus, think about this. Jesus lived for 33 years, but the first 30 years, he wasn't doing his mission. For those 30 years, he was in there as God, amazingly, seeing the world and experiencing the suffering and the hurt and the problems of all. And he lived it. He lived in a house with a poor carpenter who probably was barely making it. He learned the human condition. He felt it. You can tell already there he had empathy. He could put himself in others' shoes. And then when he started his mission, when the Holy Spirit came down upon him, he carried it out. And so we're asked to do that too. We're asked not just to teach, but also to heal. Next slide. You know that whole love one another? I meant it. Next slide. We're supposed to love and accept one another. Now, love is a tough word, and I'd like to briefly, don't choose the slide yet, talk about compassion and how we get to compassion. I showed it a little bit with our donkey friend, that love has multi-parts too, and Jesus taught us that. People use the word love, but it has a lot of other meanings. Like in Greek, they have different words for it. They have a love where you love your brother and sister and your mom and dad. They talk about love where it's between a married couple. But then there's the love agape, that is the love for others like God has, like Jesus has. So likewise, with compassion and caring, you got a hierarchy. And here you go. I'm always liking science, so you're going to get a little science here, a little psychology. Compassion, we're going to talk about what is compassion. Compassion is not sympathy. People think they're the same, but they're not at all. We'll talk about it. Compassion is mercy. It's a commitment to take responsibility for the suffering of others. Next one. So here we go. Here's some steps. This is the steps of engaging, helping, and healing. First, I said before this little chart, I said even before this, is apathy, the first horseman. I just don't care. I'm busy, I have things to do. There's people in our church that are shut-ins who can't get here, nobody visits them. I'm busy though, I got stuff to do, I got work, I got fishing, whatever it is. I'm not going to care. Or you can have pity. I acknowledge that you're suffering. I feel bad for you that you're suffering, but that's about it. I'm not going to do anything about it. I don't have time, I got other commitments. Or we can show another step higher. Sympathy. I actually care about your suffering. I care that there's people starving in Africa. I care that there's orphan children that need a home. I care about that. I'm not doing anything about it. Empathy, I feel your suffering. Here I gotta go medical for you. There's actually studies that have been done to try to see how empathetic people are. And in this one study, you guys might remember this, Joe Theismann, quarterback, going back for his last play of the football game. You all know this? Yes. Okay, there was a movie that came out too about it called Blindside. And that's what happened to him is he went back into the pocket and he got hit on his blind side by a defensive lineman. And in the process of it, as he fell, his leg got trapped and it bent big time and it broke. It broke so bad that the bone was sticking out his skin, the way it broke. And there were two ESPN or whatever announcers, and one said, "Oh," and the other one said, "Oh my gosh, that hurt." That's empathy, when you feel the pain that the person who just suffered feels. And if you do scans on people, you can see that they're called functional MRI scans. If you do those scans, they show this movie of Theismann getting hurt, and there was a range of how people responded. Some people showed no response in their brain at all. There were several prisoners they brought in there. They were guilty of murder and rape, and they showed them the video, and nothing. The brain didn't really react or respond. And then there were gradations. And then there was Pastor Mark and Jennifer and Lori, and they scanned them, and they showed the same pain that Joe Theismann had. Their area of their brain lit up just like that because they had empathy. I'll give you a clue. Remember the old man who looked at the faces of different people, of the writers, and then knew which one would help? You can actually measure the degree of empathy that people have based on whether they yawn when you yawn. If they yawn when you yawn, they're an empathetic person. If they don't react, they're not. It's a published paper about that. So, that was a little aside. Next slide. Or you can do it like this drawing where you see sympathy is, I'm sorry this happened to you. You have empathy, I see your pain and I understand. Or you get all the way to compassion.